Okay, so we need to have a discussion about our APA format. And yes, I am going to be a stickler about it. I am a former military. I was taught attention to detail in my field of work and in your field of work. Attention to detail is the difference between literal life and death. So, yeah, the details matter. And I'm going to hold you guys to a high standard of paying attention to detail. So as much as this seems like it's just so irritating, why do I have to format in this certain way? Why is she being so strict on where I put my period and where I put my parentheses and if I'm using italics or not? It's because it's the details that really matter. You are having human lives in your hands, and the details matter in that. And this is just practice for paying attention to small details and putting in quality work that you can be proud of. When I titrate medications, I have a pump that I can use to titrate medications, and I can use norepinephrine as a medication to bring up a patient's blood pressure, which is exactly what I did yesterday. But we're using such small doses. Well, they're large doses, but the math is really small, so it's really easy to make a big mistake. So yesterday I programmed my pump and I used the wrong concentration when I was setting up my pump. And I realized my mistake pretty early on, but it's that attention to detail. I could have easily gave the patient 10 times the dose of what they needed, which in some cases can be catastrophic for patients. So paying attention to detail is extremely important. You on the rigs won't have pumps. You have to literally count the drops of medication going into a patient, and if you miss that drip up by 1 or 2 drops, that could be a pretty big deal. So you need to start learning how to pay attention to the small details when you're doing your work. And taking pride in that. So I need to have a discussion with you about Purdue OWL and show you how to use it, because clearly many of you have not even went to the website. I've mentioned it quite a few times. I've annotated in each and every one of your discussion board posts from week 3. I'm going to release those grades here in maybe another hour. And so I have took the time to annotate and give you really constructive criticism on your annotations and how you're citing your sources. Some of you are going to ignore it, and I'm going to be hard on you about it. Some of you are doing actually pretty well, maybe really, really minor mistakes. But Purdue OWL is going to show you how to do this correctly, and I'm going to hold you to this standard. All of you should be able to figure out how to get to Purdue OWL. Purdue OWL, you just type it into a Google search and it's there. Click on Purdue OWL, and this is from the Purdue website, and they put together this really interactive, really, I feel it's a lot simplified versus how I had to use it in the past, having to just search through a book and try to figure out how I'm going to cite my source. So if you scroll down here, there's lots of different, let me get rid of this ad, there's lots of different types of formatting. And we're choosing to use APA, so we're going to click on the APA guide. And I'm going to walk you through how to use this website, how to get to citing your source, because from here on out, I expect you to do it correctly, because I'm going to be a stickler about it, and for that I do not apologize. Okay, so when we're looking down here, we have this ad, it keeps coming back. Okay, so APA style 7th edition. There's also a 6th edition, and this is the edition that I'm used to, so there are some changes. So we're going to use the 7th edition, and we're going to go to APA Formatting and Style Guide. And you're going to open that up, and there's going to be like, oh, what do I start? So there are some information on how to do in-text citations. So click on that. I require you to have in-text citations on your discussion board posts. If you post something and it's a fact and you don't have a citation for it, I'm assuming that it's no longer a fact and it's your opinion. And honestly, in this type of class, your opinion doesn't really matter unless you are a unit expert. If you're talking about paramedicine or your role as an EMT and your experience as an EMT, then that's perfectly fine. But if you're talking about use of medications that you've never actually given or that you've seen given but really don't know, we don't want your opinion. We want you to state a fact. You want to very clearly state why the medication is given. So, for example, if I say that epinephrine is used to increase the patient's systemic vascular resistance when they're hypotensive, I can easily state that because I know why I use it. I use this medication almost every single day when I'm at work. I would be considered a unit expert or a content expert on that specific aspect of the drug. If I was talking about the chemical compound epinephrine, I'm not a chemist. I have no idea what I'm even talking about. So I would have to find a source and be able to cite that source if I want to talk about the chemical makeup of epinephrine. So I would use an in-text citation for that if I was writing about the use of epinephrine in terms of its chemical makeup. And so for that, there's a very specific way to do that. And so what you do, there's some notes on here. In-text citation, capitalization, quotes, and italics and underlining shows you what to capitalize, what not to capitalize, what to italicize, and what not to italicize. So read through here, okay? So this is an example. According to Jones, and then if this is the author's name clearly, you'll stick the year of the citation in parentheses, and then you'll quote unquote, and you'll write down what they say. Now, I'm going to warn you about using quotes, and direct quotes should not be the majority of what you say. So if you're responding to your peer and you have your entire response as a direct quote, well, you didn't actually say anything. You just copied what somebody else said and put that in there as your post, and I will not accept that. What you need to do is paraphrase what they say. If it's not something you can paraphrase, then you need to minimize the amount of direct quote you have, and then you need to maybe reiterate what they say in a different way, which would be literally paraphrasing. So direct quotes, meaning you don't rewrite what they wrote, you just put there what the original author wrote in quotations. That should be less than 10% of the content of what you're writing. It should not be 100%. It should not be 50%. You should be coming up with your own work, really. And so I'm going to advise against direct quoting. So direct quoting would be just putting whatever the original author's text was in parentheses or in quotation marks. When you're doing a paraphrase, here. So this is a great showing you two different ways they paraphrased it. One of the ways they did it was according to Jones, 1998. That would be one way to do it. You're giving credit to Jones, and then you're going to write what they wrote. The other way is you just literally write out what you want to write, and then you cite them at the end, Jones, and it's the author, comma, the year, and then if there's a page number, you can put the page number, but that's not required. Okay. So this is how I expect you to do your in-text citations. And so for every fact you write, you should have a citation after it. Jones, 1998. Jones, 1998. After basically every new thought that's presented, you need to have a citation for that. Okay, so let's move on to how to correctly list your references. And they're not sources, they're not a work cited, so you need to not use those terms anymore. They're references. And so you write references, and underneath that, your references, if you have more than one, they're in alphabetical order. You can look at the basic rules, authors, and whatnot. So for most of you are using electronic sources, so we're just going to skip to electronic reference list of electronic sources. And if you scroll down here, you're going to see there's ones for using a website, and this one is having the last name, the first and middle initial, the year, the month, and the date, if the month and date are available. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just the year. The title of the page, and then the site name. For instance, if you're on like Healthline or something like that, you would use Healthline here, and then the URL for the specific site that you're on. So this is an example of that. It's price D, 2018, March 23rd. Laziness does not exist. And then it's from the website Medium, and then it shows the URL that they got that from. Now, if you are using Mayo Clinic or somebody like that, it's a group name. Mayo Clinic does not, they don't list their authors of their information. It's just Mayo Clinic. So you put Mayo Clinic under group name, the year and date and month and date if that's available, title of the page. And if it's Mayo Clinic, you don't have to put the site name if it's the same as the group name. So, I mean, you don't have to add Mayo Clinic and then Mayo Clinic again. We clearly see that's Mayo Clinic. And then the URL that you got it from. If there is no author and there is no, there's no group that maybe authored it, you just put the title of the page. So you don't have to put an author there if there is no author. So this is how you would write that citation. And if your website does not provide the dates, then you would put ND for no date. Don't just make up the date that you are the one the date you accessed it. Wikipedia, there's a way here to reference Wikipedia. Do not use Wikipedia in this class. It has no relevance in this class. Wikipedia, anybody can go in and edit it. I could go in there and not state that I'm an expert in this field and I can edit the history of a piece of Wikipedia. So that is not academic at all. I will not accept Wikipedia. And honestly, truly, things like Mayo Clinic, WebMD, and all that stuff, those are not academic either. Those are made for patients to be able to go on and read it at their level. It's not intended for you as students to use. I will accept it for this class. If you were working on a bachelor's or a master's, absolutely not. That would not be accepted because that's not academic in any way. So if you're trying to advance your writing and you want to be maybe you want to be more academic in your writing, you should be in my opinion, all of you should be using online scholarly journals where the actual science is documented. These are primary resources. These are the people who actually did the research. But if we're just looking at signs and symptoms of disease processes for sakes of this class, I will accept things like Mayo Clinic and WebMD and things of that nature. But going forward, if you want to work on your bachelor's, I would highly suggest getting familiar with West Hills' website, with their library, because even after you graduate from West Hills, you still have access to it, and looking up how to use scholarly journals, because those are academically acceptable, and WebMD is clearly not. So it shows you how to write all those. Okay, so I hope that this helps. I'm taking the time out of my day to make this video to show you how to use this website, and I'm not doing it for my own good. I'm doing it for your own good. So going forward, week 4 and on, I expect your citations to be on point because you will be graded for their accuracy. So hate to be a bitch about it, but I'm going to hold you to that high standard. You're going to have to learn to pay attention to the small details, the periods, the commas, the quotations, all of that matters for this class.